Luis had lost everything: his home, his job, and nearly his hope. But amid his struggles, a glimmer of kindness emerged. The owner of a bankrupt restaurant, Armando, offered Luis and his daughter, Sofia, a place to stay while he tried to save his business. What seemed like a temporary refuge turned into an unexpected opportunity. As the days passed, Luis found himself drawn into a journey he never anticipated, a journey from despair to hope, from failure to redemption. He knew he had to do something to change their fate, and with Armando's trust and a desperate desire to protect his daughter, Luis took on the challenge of saving the restaurant. But just when things seemed to be turning around, a heartbreaking twist threatened everything they had fought for. Would they find a way to overcome it, or would the darkness of their circumstances consume them? If you are not subscribed, I recommend you subscribe and activate the bell so you don't miss any videos. Amidst the crumbling remains of his once bustling restaurant, the owner, a man burdened with his financial collapse, extended a lifeline to a homeless man and his daughter. He opened the doors of his shuttered establishment, offering them a temporary sanctuary while the building awaited a buyer. Little did he know, however, that when he unexpectedly walked in without warning one day, he would be confronted with a scene that would leave him utterly astounded, a revelation about the depths of human resilience and resourcefulness that he never anticipated. Luis, the homeless man in question, found himself sitting on a quiet, deserted sidewalk, patiently waiting for his daughter, Sofia, to emerge from school. He deliberately chose a secluded side street, far from the bustling main exit, to avoid the judgmental stares of other parents who often gathered at the front, eagerly awaiting their children. Luis was painfully aware of the disdainful glances he would attract if he dared join them. "They just don't get it," he brooded, his heart heavy with frustration. "If only they could see the relentless struggle, the endless efforts I pour into trying to rebuild our shattered lives, maybe they wouldn't be so quick to condemn." Lost in a labyrinth of despairing thoughts, Luis wrestled with the overwhelming sense of failure that haunted him. Perhaps I haven't pushed hard enough, explored every possible avenue, he pondered, his mind racing in search of an elusive solution. There must be something I've missed, some way out of this suffocating darkness. Just then, a burst of joy pierced through his bleak musings. "Daddy, I'm here. You won't believe what happened today." Sofia's exuberant voice echoed down the street, her excitement contagious as she raced toward him, her face aglow with the purest form of happiness. Luis sprang to his feet, his weary features instantly softening at the sight of his daughter's radiant smile. "Tell me everything, sweetheart, but let's chat as we walk. We don't want to miss lunch." He responded, his tone gentle and affectionate as he took her small backpack, the weight of his worries momentarily lifting. Together they strolled hand in hand, with Sofia eagerly recounting every detail of her day. Her voice, full of animated enthusiasm, was a soothing balm to Luis's troubled soul. The conversation flowed freely, filled with laughter and pride, until they found themselves approaching the familiar alleyway beside Armando Navarro's restaurant. The restaurant had become a beacon of hope amid the relentless storm of challenges that Luis and Sofia faced each day, a place where they could find not only a warm meal but a rare sense of belonging. Armando, the man behind this haven, was a figure of quiet strength and unwavering kindness. Though his stern expression rarely softened, his actions spoke volumes about the size of his heart. Armando's generosity extended far beyond the doors of his struggling restaurant, reaching out to those who had been cast aside by society. As usual, a small gathering of homeless individuals lingered in the alley, patiently awaiting the day's meal. Luis and Sofia were now familiar faces among them, greeted warmly as they joined the group. The aroma of freshly cooked food wafted through the air, offering comfort and solace. As they neared the door, where Armando was diligently stirring large pots of steaming food, he looked up and smiled a rare but genuine expression of welcome. "Luis, Sofia, good to see you both. You're just in time, the pots are freshly filled," Armando called out, his voice carrying a warmth that belied his usually stern demeanor. "Thank you, Mr. Armando. Your generosity has been a lifeline for us. Without these meals, I'm not sure how I'd be able to provide for Sophia," Luis replied, his voice thick with emotion and gratitude. "Luis, you don't need to thank me every time. This should be the norm. But it seems that most places have lost their way. They took their meal and settled down in the alley. The simple act of sharing food bringing a moment of peace amid their struggles." As Sophia chattered away, her innocent joy a stark contrast to the heavy burdens her father carried, they quietly savored the food. As they were finishing their meal, Armando walked over and sat beside Luis. It was not unusual for Armando to join them, often engaging in friendly conversation, but today, something in his demeanor was different. He seemed worn out, the weight of his troubles visible in the lines etched on his face. Concerned, Luis asked softly, "What's wrong, Armando? You seem troubled. Is it the restaurant, or is something wrong with your daughter?" Armando hesitated, struggling to find the right words. Finally, he opened up, his voice tinged with despair. "Luis, things are bad. The restaurant is barely holding on. We've lost so many customers, and the debts just keep piling up. I'm afraid if something doesn't change soon, I'll have to close the place for good." His words were filled with a deep sense of helplessness. For a moment, Luis sat in stunned silence, absorbing the gravity of what Armando had just shared. This restaurant wasn't just a place that provided them with meals, it was a beacon of hope in their darkest times, a symbol of human kindness in a world that often seemed devoid of it. "There must be something we can do, Armando. This place can't just disappear. Not after all these years," Luis finally said, his voice resolute. He could see the fight was leaving Armando, but Luis wasn't ready to give up. "I've tried everything. Luis, promotions, discounts, nothing works. People just aren't spending money like they used to," Armando replied, his resignation evident. Luis wasn't willing to accept this defeat. "Mr. Armando, you've helped us when we had nowhere else to turn. We can't just stand by and watch you lose everything. We'll think of something, I promise. Maybe there's a way to attract more attention to the restaurant, something that hasn't been tried yet." Although he didn't yet know what the solution could be, Luis's determination was clear. He knew the situation was dire, but he also knew that giving up wasn't an option. Armando managed a weak smile, deeply moved by Luis's willingness to help despite his hardships. "Your offer means a lot to me, especially knowing what you've been through yourself. I just don't see how you could help in this situation, but your determination gives me hope. Luis, I understand all too well what it's like to lose everything in an instant. It's a feeling I wouldn't wish on anyone." His eyes reflected both sorrow and empathy, the pain of shared struggles binding them in a silent understanding. Encouraged by Luis's concern, Armando pressed gently, "You've never told me the whole story. How did you end up in this situation?" Luis took a deep breath, the memories flooding back. "I used to work in advertising. It was my passion, coming up with creative strategies and working on campaigns. I was good at it, really good. But the market started to shrink, clients began cutting back, and eventually the company folded. Was one of the last to be let go. I kept hoping things would turn around, but they didn't." The memory of his last day at the office was still vivid in his mind, the stunned silence, the hollow eyes of colleagues who, like him, were losing everything. "I searched for work every day after that, but nothing came through. The bills piled up, the savings dried out, and then the unthinkable happened. We were evicted, Sophia and I." Luis paused, the pain of that moment still raw. "Suddenly, we were out on the street. No job, no home, and the most terrifying part was not knowing how to protect my little girl. It was like living in a nightmare." His voice trembled as he recalled the overwhelming fear and helplessness that had consumed him. Armando listened intently, the depth of Luis's struggle hitting him hard. "Luis, I'm so sorry you've had to endure all this. Your strength and your determination, even in the face of such relentless adversity, are truly inspiring. I hope that things turn around for both of us soon. We'll get through this, but it will take all the courage we have." Armando said with heartfelt sincerity, admiration for Luis evident in every word. The two men sat in silence for a moment, the weight of their shared burdens heavy in the air. Yet within that silence, there was also a bond of mutual understanding that, no matter how dark the road ahead might be, they were not alone. They would face whatever came next together, fueled by the quiet but unyielding hope that better days were still possible. Luis forced a grateful smile, his eyes reflecting the depth of his gratitude. "Thank you, Armando. Your kindness has been a beacon of hope for us. I may not have much to offer, but please know that you can always count on me for anything you need." BD 268. With those words, Luis and Sofia bid their farewells and began the familiar walk back to the place they had come to call home, a makeshift refuge under the shelter of a small, dilapidated house. Though the house itself was abandoned, offering nothing more than decaying walls and a sense of forgotten history, the small covered patio where they had pitched their tent provided some semblance of protection from the unforgiving elements. The gate to the house was always open, a silent invitation to trespass, but Luis, ever mindful of boundaries and the potential presence of an unknown owner, never dared to step inside, respecting the invisible lines drawn by circumstance. The day dragged on, and as the sun dipped below the horizon, Luis and Sofia realized they wouldn't be able to secure another meal. Hunger gnawed at them, but they had become accustomed to the relentless pangs that marked the days of their uncertain existence. As night fell, they retreated to their tent, the thin walls offering scant protection from the chill in the air. They lay down, and the quiet of the night enveloped them, broken only by the soft rhythm of their breathing and the distant hum of the city. Luis stared up at the ceiling of the tent, his mind a whirlwind of thoughts and worries. "I have to find a way out for us," he thought, the weight of responsibility pressing heavily on his heart. "A solution will come, I just have to keep looking, keep believing." Beside him, Sofia had already drifted into a peaceful sleep, her small body curled up close to her father. She was the reason he continued to fight every day. The only light in the darkness that threatened to consume him. "She's all I have, and I'm all she has," he reminded himself. For her, "I can't afford to give up." With that firm resolve, Luis finally allowed himself to succumb to the exhaustion that clung to him. The night passed quietly, the stillness broken only by the occasional rustle of leaves or distant city sounds. But as the early morning hours approached, the tranquility was abruptly shattered. A harsh, commanding voice tore through the silence, jolting both Luis and Sofia awake inside their tent. "You two, get out of there now. If you don't come out, I'll tear this tent down myself. Do you hear me?" The voice, cold and authoritative, sent a surge of fear through both of them, their hearts racing with anxiety. Sofia, her mind still foggy from sleep, clung to her father, her voice trembling as she whispered, "Dad, what's happening? Why are they yelling at us?" Luis, trying desperately to maintain a calm facade for the sake of his daughter, whispered back, "Stay here, Sofia. Let me handle this. Don't come out of the tent." His voice was steady, but inside, his nerves were frayed. He stepped out of the tent, and there, standing in the harsh glare of the patrol car's flashing lights, was a police officer, his expression hard and unyielding. The officer wasted no time in delivering his harsh judgment. "You're trespassing on private property. From the looks of it, you forced your way in. This is illegal." The accusation struck Luis like a blow to the gut. Panic rising in his chest, he quickly tried to explain. "Officer, we didn't break into anything. The gate was open, and this house has been abandoned for as long as I can remember. We just needed somewhere to stay, a bit of shelter for the night." His voice trembled with desperation, but the officer's face remained stone-like, unmoved by Luis's plea. "It doesn't matter whether the place is abandoned or not. This is still private property, and you have no right to be here." If you don't leave immediately, I'll have no choice but to arrest you and take the girl into custody." The officer's words hung in the air, heavy with threat, and Luis felt a wave of helplessness wash over him. The very thought of being separated from Sofia, of her being taken away, was more than he could bear. He had to think fast, had to find a way to diffuse the situation, but the cold reality of their circumstances made it clear that they had no other option. They had to leave, and they had to leave now. Desperation clawed at Luis, but for Sofia's sake he had to remain strong, even as their fragile refuge was torn away from them. The officer's words echoed in Luis's mind, a stark reminder of the harsh reality they were facing. He knew he had no choice but to comply, the fear of being separated from Sofia gripping his heart with unbearable force. Trying to steady his trembling voice, Luis bent down and looked into the tent where his daughter lay. "Sofia, sweetheart, we have to leave now. Pack your things, okay? We'll find somewhere else to stay," he said gently, masking the fear that threatened to overwhelm him. Together they gathered what little they had and stepped out of their temporary refuge, passing by the menacing patrol car. As they walked away into the darkness, Luis felt the officer's gaze burning into his back, but he resisted the overwhelming urge to run, forcing himself to stay calm for Sofia's sake. Under the cloak of night, they moved quietly, Luis battling the tears that threatened to spill over. He felt the crushing weight of their situation, the despair of being unable to provide for his daughter in the way she deserved. Sensing her father's distress, Sofia tightened her grip on his hand, her small fingers offering a comfort that belied her age. Luis looked down at her, seeing in her eyes a resilience that never ceased to astonish him. "It'll be okay, Dad. Those bad men didn't hurt us, so everything will be fine," she said with a certainty that tugged at Luis's heartstrings. He desperately wanted to believe her, to find within himself the same strength that radiated from his daughter, but the uncertainty of their future loomed over him like a dark cloud. "I have to be strong for both of us," Luis resolved as they walked further away from the only place they had called home, even if it was just a patch of ground beneath a roofless shelter. "I can't let her see me break down, no matter how much I want to. I need to keep it together." The night stretched on as they wandered, and eventually they came across a small, quiet square. It was a place of solitude far removed from the chaos of the city, and Luis decided it was a safe spot for them to rest, if only for a little while. He gently eased Sofia onto his lap as they settled on a secluded bench, offering her what little comfort he could in their dire circumstances. As Sofia fought to keep her eyes open, the exhaustion of the day weighing heavily on her, she whispered, "Dad, I'm hungry. There's nothing to eat until tomorrow, and I don't like the food at school." Her innocent, matter-of-fact statement cut through Luis like a knife. The sheer helplessness of being unable to provide a meal for his daughter was a burden too heavy to bear. "How can I protect you from the world when I can't even feed you?" he agonized silently, the pain of his inadequacy tearing at his soul. Luis stroked Sofia's hair tenderly, trying to soothe her as she drifted off to sleep. "I know, my love, I know, but tomorrow you'll have something to eat at school during recess. Just hold on a little longer, okay? Morning will be here soon." His voice, though calm, was laced with the anguish of a father who felt he was failing his child most fundamentally. Despite her hunger and fatigue, Sofia managed a small smile, looking up at him with love that was pure and unwavering. "It's okay, Dad. I love you so much. I'll even get some cookies for you," she murmured before finally succumbing to sleep. As Sofia slept peacefully in his arms, Luis allowed the tears he had been holding back to fall freely. Each tear carried with it the weight of his fears, his failures, and the immense love he felt for his daughter. "God, how long do I have to keep making her live like this?" he thought, his heart aching with the depth of his despair. He looked up at the night sky, the vast expanse of stars offering no answers, only a cold, indifferent silence. "Please, give me the strength to change our fate," he whispered. His plea carried on the wind, a prayer from a father desperate for a miracle. "I'll do anything, anything at all, just give me a chance." As the first light of dawn began to creep over the horizon, the night's stillness was broken by the start of a new day. Despite everything, Luis found some solace in the routine that awaited them. With Sofia by his side, they began their walk to school, a daily ritual that offered a semblance of normalcy in a life that was anything but normal. The morning passed slowly, each hour filled with a gnawing worry about what the future might hold. When the time came to pick up Sofia, Luis was back at his usual spot, waiting with a nervous energy that he tried to mask with a calm exterior. He knew that no matter what the day brought, he had to face it with the strength and resolve that his daughter needed him to have. As Luis and Sofia approached Armando's restaurant, a familiar yet unsettling sight greeted them: a glaring for sale sign nailed to the front of the building. Luis felt his heart drop into the pit of his stomach. The cold reality of the situation hit him harder than he had anticipated. No, this can't be happening. Armando can't just give up like this. It's because of him that Sofia eats more than once a day. I won't let this happen, Luis thought, his initial shock quickly transforming into a fierce resolve. When they arrived to collect their daily meal, Luis could no longer contain his concern. He turned to Armando, his voice tinged with urgency and disbelief. "Armando, what's going on with that sign? I can't believe you're giving up on the restaurant. I know you too well to see you just throw in the towel like this." Armando's eyes reflected a deep sadness, the weight of his struggles evident in the weary lines on his face. "I didn't want it to come to this," Luis Armando began, his voice heavy with resignation. "But the financial strain has become unbearable. I've tried everything I could, but selling the restaurant is the only option left. I'm sorry truly for you, for Sofia, and for everyone else who depends on this place. But I promise, you'll have food this week. I'm leaving town for a bit, and my daughter will be here to keep things running and make sure you're taken care of." Luis listened, his heart sinking further with every word. The thought of losing not just a source of food, but a place that had become a lifeline for him and his daughter, filled him with a dread he could barely contain. The fear of what would happen if Armando's restaurant closed, if there was nowhere else to turn, threatened to overwhelm him. But amid the swirling storm of anxiety, a single thought began to form a spark of inspiration that cut through the darkness like a beacon. His advertising background, the skills he had honed in what now felt like another lifetime, suddenly seemed like the solution he had been searching for. "I can do this. I can help save this place," Luis realized, a surge of determination pushing aside the fear. Turning to Armando with newfound resolve, Luis made his plea. "Armando, don't sell the restaurant just yet. Give me a week. Let me use what I know, my advertising skills, to bring in more customers. In return, all I ask is that Sofia and I can sleep in the warehouse at night, just until things turn around." His voice was firm, carrying the weight of hope and desperation. Armando looked at Luis, taken aback by the boldness of his proposal. The idea of selling the restaurant had seemed like the only way out, a painful but necessary decision. But here was Luis, offering a glimmer of hope when all hope seemed lost. Armando's expression softened as he considered the offer, the lines of worry on his face easing slightly. After a moment of contemplation, he nodded slowly. "All right, Luis, it's a deal. You have 1 week. If you can show me that there's still life in this place, I'll reconsider selling." The relief that washed over Luis was almost overwhelming. He had been given a chance, a sliver of hope in what felt like an endless night. "Thank you, Armando. I won't let you down. I'll do everything I can to make this work. You won't regret giving me this chance." The day passed with Luis feeling a renewed sense of purpose. For the first time in what felt like ages, he had a plan, a direction. When evening fell, they returned to the restaurant, this time with the knowledge that they had a place to rest. The warehouse door was open, and as they cautiously entered, they found a young woman setting up a mattress among the stacks of boxes. It was a simple gesture, yet it meant the world to Luis and Sofia. The young woman, Armando's daughter, looked up and smiled warmly at them. "I wanted to make sure you had somewhere comfortable to sleep," she said, her kindness evident in every word. The mattress, though modest, was more than they had hoped for, a symbol of the compassion and humanity that still existed even in the hardest of times. Luis felt a deep sense of gratitude as he watched Sofia settle onto the mattress, her small form finally able to rest after so many restless nights. "We'll get through this," he thought, his resolve stronger than ever. "I'll make sure of it." With Sofia peacefully drifting off to sleep beside him, Luis allowed himself a moment of quiet reflection. The challenges ahead were daunting, but for the first time in a long while, he felt like they had a fighting chance. The week ahead would be crucial, but Luis was determined to make the most of the opportunity Armando had given him. As he lay down beside his daughter, Luis silently vowed to use every ounce of his energy and creativity to breathe new life into the restaurant, not just for Armando, but for the future he so desperately wanted to secure for Sofia. The road ahead was uncertain, but he was ready to face it, knowing that failure was no longer an option. For the sake of his daughter and the hope that had been rekindled, Luis knew he had to succeed. "Good evening," Luis greeted, his voice carrying a gentle warmth. "Sorry to intrude. You must be Armando's daughter, right?" The young woman looked up, momentarily startled by the unexpected encounter, but her expression quickly softened into a welcoming smile. "Yes, that's me." "And you must be Luis," she replied, stepping forward with a kind demeanor. "I'm Victoria, and this lovely young lady must be Sofia," she added, crouching down to meet Sofia's curious gaze. "What a beautiful girl." Victoria invited them in with a wave of her hand. "Please, come inside and make yourselves comfortable. I've made some hot soup. I thought you might be hungry. Give me just a moment, and I'll bring it out." With a quick and graceful movement, she disappeared into the back, and before they knew it, the three of them were seated on the makeshift seats of boxes, each holding a steaming bowl of soup. The rich, inviting aroma filled the small space, wrapping them in a moment of warmth and comfort. As they sipped the nourishing broth, Luis couldn't help but ask about Armando. "So, your father. He mentioned he was going to travel. Has he already left today? I thought we might see him before he went." Victoria nodded, her expression calm but determined. "Yes, he had to leave earlier today. He left everything in my hands, though. I know he trusts me to manage things here, and that gives me the confidence I need to take care of everything while he's gone." Luis smiled, his admiration for her growing. "You have the same intelligence and kindness as your father. I'm sure you'll do an amazing job." His compliment brought a shy smile to Victoria's face. "By the way, this soup is fantastic. You must have inherited your father's culinary talents. Do you enjoy cooking?" A light danced in Victoria's eyes as she nodded. "Yes, I do enjoy it. Cooking is a way to express myself, to connect with others. But to be honest, it's not what I want to do with my life. My true passion is music. Cooking may speak to the soul, but music speaks to the heart." Luis listened intently, captivated by the passion in her voice. "Music does have a way of connecting us to something deeper, something beyond words. I've always had a love for it too. I can play a few instruments: piano, guitar, and a little bit of violin." Sofia, who had been quietly observing the conversation, shifted her gaze between her father and Victoria. She was used to seeing the weight of the world etched on her father's face, but tonight there was something different. The way he spoke, the light in his eyes, it was a side of him she hadn't seen in a long time. The warmth of the moment, the exchange of genuine smiles, filled her young heart with a quiet joy. As the conversation flowed, Sofia patiently waited for a chance to share her thoughts. When a brief lull in the conversation came, she seized the moment with the innocent sincerity that only a child possesses. "Dad, don't you think Victoria would be a great mom?" she asked. her voice sweet and unassuming. The question landed like a small, unexpected bombshell. Luis felt his face flush with embarrassment, his thoughts scrambling to find a response. He let out a nervous laugh, trying to ease the sudden awkwardness. "Sophia, sweetie, that's quite a thing to say." "Victoria, I'm so sorry. She's just a kid, sometimes they say the darndest things." Victoria's cheeks had turned a shade of pink, but she met Luis's flustered expression with a warm, genuine smile. "Don't worry about it, Luis. It's very sweet. I can only imagine how hard things have been for you both, and it's natural for Sophia to miss having a mother around," she said, her voice full of understanding and affection. The moment, while initially awkward, soon became a shared laugh that only deepened the connection forming between them. It added a layer of closeness, a shared humanity that made the evening feel all the more special. They continued to talk and enjoy each other's company, the earlier tension melting away into the comfort of companionship. Eventually, the evening drew to a close. Victoria stood, stretching slightly, and said her goodbyes with a promise to see them again soon. As she left, the warehouse settled into a quiet stillness, leaving father and daughter alone in the soft darkness. Luis watched Sophia as she curled up to sleep, her earlier question still lingering in his mind, but now with a soft smile on his face. Despite the challenges they faced, tonight had brought a little light into their lives, something to hold on to in the days to come. As the night settled in, Luis and Sophia lay on the mattress that had become their makeshift bed in the warehouse. The warmth and laughter from the evening still lingered in the air, but a comfortable silence soon enveloped them. As they tried to find comfort on the lumpy mattress, Luis's thoughts drifted back to the moments of connection and conversation with Victoria. However, just as he was about to succumb to sleep, Sophia's small voice broke the quiet. "Dad, I saw how you looked at Victoria. You like her, don't you?" "There's no point in lying to me, you looked like a fool," she said with the kind of disarming honesty that only a child could muster. Her words caught Luis off guard, making him chuckle in surprise. "I'm to sleep, little one." "Enough talking for tonight. I'm exhausted," he replied, trying to deflect her observation, though he couldn't deny the warmth that spread through his chest. But Sophia wasn't finished. She giggled softly, adding, "She likes you too, I can tell. She was acting all silly around you." Luis's smile faded as her innocent words settled in. Could there be truth in what she said? Could Victoria have felt something for him, or was it just Sophia's playful imagination? He didn't know what to think. The idea seemed almost too far-fetched, considering their circumstances. He knew he was drawn to Victoria, but he had convinced himself that any mutual feelings were unlikely, if not impossible. Still, Sophia's words planted a seed of possibility in his mind, one that he couldn't quite shake off. As these thoughts swirled around, fatigue finally overtook him, and he drifted into a restless sleep. The following morning, they awoke to the aroma of breakfast wafting through the warehouse. Victoria, true to her kind nature, had prepared a simple yet nourishing meal for them. As they sat together, enjoying the warm food, Victoria's curiosity got the better of her. "So, Luis, do you have any plans for how you're going to help the restaurant? My father mentioned that you're skilled in advertising and might have some ideas." Luis, deep in thought as he chewed on his bread, nodded slowly. "I'm still working on it, but I think I need to take a closer look at the place first. Understanding what makes the restaurant special will help me create something appealing." Sensing his need for space and concentration, Victoria offered to take Sophia to school, a gesture that went beyond mere kindness. "I can take Sophia with me," she suggested. "That way you can focus on your plans without any distractions." The offer was not just practical, it was an extension of trust and support for Luis's efforts. Grateful, Luis accepted, his heart swelling with appreciation. "Thank you, Victoria. That would help a lot. I promise you your support won't be in vain." just as your father's faith in me won't be either. After Victoria and Sophia left, Luis turned his attention to the task at hand. He began his inspection in the storage room, moving through the kitchen and finally into the main dining area. The restaurant, with its empty tables and quiet atmosphere, seemed almost frozen in time, waiting for the life that once filled it to return. The silence was heavy, but to Luis, it felt like a canvas full of potential. As he surveyed the space, his eyes landed on a chalkboard near the entrance, currently serving as a simple welcome sign. Suddenly, an idea began to form a way to breathe new life into the place and attract customers. When Victoria returned, Luis was waiting for her, perched on the boxes in the storage room, his mind buzzing with excitement. He wasted no time sharing his idea with her. What if we use that entrance sign to promote something unique, something that catches people's attention and makes them curious enough to come inside, he proposed, his voice brimming with enthusiasm. Luis elaborated, we could announce special dishes, run promotions, or even host themed events, things that change regularly to keep the experience fresh and engaging for customers. It would create a sense of novelty and anticipation. Victoria listened carefully, her face reflecting the excitement of Luis's plan, though she remained cautious. The idea is great, Luis, but we have to be mindful of our current situation. We can't afford to generate a lot of extra costs, she cautioned, her optimism tempered with a realistic concern for the restaurant's financial state. Luis nodded, understanding her point. He closed his eyes for a moment, letting the problem simmer in his mind, searching for a solution that would be both effective and economical. After a few moments, a spark of inspiration lit up his face. What if we introduce a game? Imagine a customer ordering a random dish from the menu, but before they can eat, they have to guess what the dish is. If they guess correctly, the dish and a drink are on the house. Victoria's eyes widened slightly as she considered the idea. It was clever and playful and didn't require any extra expenses. It also had the potential to draw people in, intrigued by the chance to play and possibly win a free meal. That's a brilliant idea, she said, her voice tinged with excitement. It's fun, it's engaging, and it doesn't cost us anything extra. I think people would love it. Seeing the spark of approval in Victoria's eyes filled Luis with renewed hope. This idea could be the beginning of something that would turn the restaurant's fortunes around. I think it could work, he said, his voice steady with confidence. We can start small and see how people respond. If it works, we can build on it, adding more events or games that keep people coming back. Victoria nodded, her cautious optimism giving way to genuine excitement. Let's do it. We'll start as soon as possible. I'll handle the kitchen and make sure everything is ready, and you can work on the advertising. Together we might just save this place. As they finalized their plan, a sense of camaraderie and shared purpose grew between them. The challenges ahead were still daunting, but for the first time in a long while, they felt like they had a fighting chance. Luis couldn't help but feel a surge of hope, not just for the restaurant, but for the possibility of a future that was beginning to seem a little brighter. Victoria's initial hesitation dissolved as her enthusiasm grew, captivated by the sheer brilliance of Luis's idea. That's brilliant, Luis. It's fun, engaging, and doesn't require much investment. Plus, it's going to create such a memorable experience for the customers. Her eyes sparkled with excitement, and before she knew it, she impulsively moved forward and hugged Luis. The gesture was spontaneous, catching Luis off guard. His face flushed as he gently returned the embrace, feeling a mix of embarrassment and joy. As they pulled apart, both wore shy smiles, aware that something between them had subtly shifted. Luis, feeling the need to refocus, cleared his throat. Right, let's get to planning. We need to spread the word and maybe think of more games or events to keep the momentum going. We should do something different each day so customers always have a reason to return. Victoria nodded, inspired by Luis's resolve. Absolutely. I've got a few more ideas that could work well with our budget." Their conversation flowed easily, with ideas bouncing back and forth, filling them with a renewed sense of hope. For the first time in a while, it felt like Armando's restaurant might have a fighting chance. With their plan outlined, Victoria took the lead in bringing it to life. She grabbed the chalkboard and carefully wrote the enticing phrase that would, they hoped, draw in curious customers order a random dish and guess its name. "If you get it right, you don't pay." Placing the sign outside the restaurant was a moment charged with both nervousness and hope. It was a gamble on human curiosity, a bet that this simple, clever idea could breathe new life into the struggling business. As the restaurant opened its doors, Victoria threw herself into her work, trying to stay busy by cleaning, washing, and drying anything she could find, all the while wrestling with her growing anxiety. What if no one is interested? What if people don't like taking risks? Just because the idea is good doesn't mean it'll work, she thought, her heart heavy with worry. But she clung to the hope that Luis's idea would catch on. Then, the silence was broken by the sound of the doorbell. A customer had arrived. Victoria's heart skipped a beat as she quickly wiped her hands on her apron and rushed to the front. Standing before her was a man, his expression one of curiosity and intrigue. "I saw the promotion at the entrance. How does it work exactly? Is it free if you guess right?" he asked, a hint of challenge in his voice. Victoria, her excitement barely contained, explained, "Yes, you order a random dish from our menu, and I'll prepare it for you. Before you taste it, you try to guess the name of the dish. If you guess correctly, the dish and your drink are on the house." Her eyes sparkled with the hope that this could be the start of something much bigger. The customer grinned, clearly entertained by the concept. "That sounds interesting. I accept the challenge. Let's see what you've got. Surprise me with a random dish." Victoria, almost unable to believe her luck, nodded eagerly and hurried back to the kitchen to prepare the first dish of the day. The air buzzed with anticipation as she worked, knowing that this moment could be the turning point they desperately needed. As she plated the dish, Victoria felt a surge of optimism. Maybe this simple game could be the key to reviving the restaurant. She returned to the customer with the dish, her heart pounding with nervous excitement. The man inspected the meal with a thoughtful expression, savoring the moment before making his guess. As the customer pondered, Victoria could barely contain her excitement. The outcome of this small, seemingly insignificant moment could be the start of something bigger, a ripple effect that might just save the restaurant. Whatever happened next, one thing was clear: they had taken a bold step forward, and for the first time in a long time, the future seemed a little brighter. In the dimly lit storage room, Luis spent the day wrestling with a storm of emotions. Anxiety gnawed at him as he alternated between revisiting his ideas and stealing glances through the kitchen door, hoping for any sign of Victoria. The silence was deafening, amplifying his fears. What if no one showed up? What if the plan was a total flop? He tried to push away the negative thoughts, reminding himself to stay optimistic. It will work. It has to work. Maybe she's just too busy to update me, he reasoned, clinging to the hope that no news was good news. As the hours ticked by, Luis knew he had to leave to pick up Sofia from school, but the gnawing worry stayed with him. When he returned, his concern turned to curiosity when he saw Victoria outside, engaged in her usual routine of feeding the homeless in the alley. Her eyes lit up when she spotted him and Sofia approaching, and with a bounce in her step, she rushed over to greet them. "You won't believe it, Louise. The idea is working. We had more customers today than we've had in weeks. You're making it happen." Victoria's excitement was contagious, her eyes sparkling with the joy of success. Louise, hearing the news, felt a rush of relief and couldn't help but laugh, the tension of the day melting away. "Really? That's incredible. You don't know how much I needed to hear that right now," he said, a broad smile spreading across his face. Victoria went on to explain that only 4 customers had managed to guess the dish names correctly, meaning the restaurant had not only attracted more people but had also generated some profit. But Luis knew they couldn't rest on their laurels. "We can't get complacent. We need to keep this momentum going." While I was in the storage room, I was thinking about the next step. What if we do something similar with juices? Customers could try to guess the flavor by taste, and if they guess correctly, they can drink as much as they want. Victoria, still riding the high from the day's success, was eager to try the new idea. "I love it. People, especially the younger crowd, seem to love a good challenge." The next morning, they set up a new sign outside the restaurant: "Order a random juice and guess the flavor. If you guess correctly, drink as much as you want." The anticipation was palpable as they watched and waited for the response. While the promotion did manage to draw in some customers, Victoria noticed that the influx wasn't as significant as the previous day's rush. As the day wore on, it became clear that while the idea had some appeal, it wasn't enough to sustain the momentum they needed. By the end of the day, Victoria's initial excitement had dimmed, and she found herself back in the storage room, her expression heavy with concern. "Louise, the juice idea was good, but it didn't bring in the numbers we needed. We need something more, something that makes us stand out from other restaurants, something that grabs people's attention," she said, her voice tinged with discouragement. The pressure to save the restaurant was beginning to weigh heavily on both of them. Louise could see the worry in her eyes, and he fell silent, his mind churning as he searched for a solution. It was then that he recalled something Victoria had mentioned before: her love for music. A thought began to take shape, and he decided to explore it. "Victoria, you mentioned that you love music. Do you play any instruments? Have you ever performed in front of an audience?" Luis asked, his tone thoughtful. Victoria was taken aback by the sudden change in topic. She hesitated, unsure where Luis was going with this. "Yes, I play the guitar a bit, and I sing sometimes, but only for myself and my father. I've never performed in front of people before. Why do you ask?" Her voice carried a note of apprehension, her mind racing to figure out his intentions. Luis, a knowing smile playing on his lips, let the silence hang between them for a moment, allowing the idea to take root in her mind. Victoria's eyes widened as realization dawned, and she quickly retreated into her shell. "Louise, you're not seriously suggesting that I perform, are you? I don't know if I can do that. It's one thing to sing in private, but in front of a crowd? What if I get too nervous and can't do it?" Louis stepped closer, his voice gentle yet encouraging. "Victoria, this could be exactly what we need, something unique that will draw people in. Music has a way of connecting with people on a deeper level. You said it yourself, cooking speaks to the soul, but music speaks to the heart. We can create an atmosphere that's not just about food, but about an experience. And you have the talent to make that happen." Victoria bit her lip, the fear of failure battling with the possibility of success. I don't know, Louise. What if I mess up?" Louise placed a reassuring hand on her shoulder. "You won't. You're passionate and talented, and people will respond to that. Besides, you won't be alone. I'll be there, cheering you on every step of the way. Let's turn this restaurant into a place where people come not just to eat, but to feel something special. We can do this together." Victoria took a deep breath, the weight of the decision pressing down on her. But as she looked into Luis's eyes, filled with unwavering confidence and support, she felt a spark of courage ignite within her. "Okay," she whispered, then louder, with more conviction, "Okay, let's do it. I'll perform." Luis's smile widened, filled with pride and relief. "That's the spirit. We'll make this work, Victoria. We'll give them a reason to come back, again and again." As they began to discuss the details, the sense of hope that had been flickering within them grew stronger. They were about to embark on a new chapter, one that could very well define the future of Armando's restaurant. And as they planned, A new energy filled the air, an energy that promised that something remarkable was about to unfold. As the conversation took an unexpected and challenging turn, Louise could see the mixture of excitement and fear in Victoria's eyes. The idea of performing in front of an audience was daunting to her, but Louise was determined to help her overcome this hurdle. "Let's start small," he suggested gently. "How about you sing just for me and Sophia? Think of it as a rehearsal. If you can sing for us, you'll feel more comfortable performing for the restaurant's audience later on." Victoria hesitated, her mind swirling with self-doubt. The thought of singing, even for a small and supportive audience, stirred up her deepest insecurities. What if I sing out of tune? "I'm not that good, Louise. I'm just an amateur. I've never had formal training, and I don't know if I'm ready for this." Her voice was a blend of fear and a deep desire to share her passion. But Louise wasn't about to let her give up so easily. "Victoria, we believe in you," he said with quiet conviction. "No matter what happens, we'll be here cheering you on. It's a chance to let your talent shine, even if it's just for us." Sophia, ever the enthusiastic supporter, chimed in eagerly. "Please, Victoria, I want to hear you sing. I'm sure you sing like a princess, just like in the movies." The sparkle in Sophia's eyes, filled with pure expectation, was the final nudge Victoria needed. After a moment of contemplation, she sighed and nodded. "All right, I'll give it a try," she agreed, her voice wavering but determined. "But I'm not promising anything. I'll sing for you both, but that doesn't mean I'm ready to perform for the whole restaurant." That evening, the storage room was transformed into an impromptu stage. The three of them sat on the boxes, with Louis strumming the guitar as Victoria prepared to sing. As she began, her voice's soft, melodious tone filled the small space, surprising both Louise and Sophia with its beauty. It was a voice that carried both emotion and raw talent, far beyond what even Louise had anticipated. Louise found himself completely captivated by the sight of Victoria singing. There was something about the way she poured herself into the music, the way her voice connected with the melodies, that struck a chord deep within him. Watching her, he felt a warmth in his chest, a new and profound feeling that left him both enchanted and unexpectedly vulnerable. For Victoria, the experience was equally transformative. As she sang, with Louise accompanying her on guitar, she realized that her love for music was only part of what made this moment special. It wasn't just the act of singing that stirred her emotions, it was the presence of Louise, the way he played the guitar with such skill and sensitivity, that truly captivated her. In that moment, she recognized that her feelings for him were more than just admiration, they were something deeper, something she hadn't fully acknowledged until now. When the last note faded and the final verse was sung, Victoria was glowing with newfound confidence. What had begun as a terrifying prospect had turned into an exhilarating experience. "Thank you so much," she said, her voice full of gratitude and excitement. "Now I know I can do it. Let's bring music to the restaurant and make it something special." The next day, when the restaurant reopened, there was a palpable energy in the air. A new sign outside the door promised a unique experience: live music, guess the name of the song, and win a dessert. It was an unusual offer for a neighborhood restaurant, but one that immediately piqued the curiosity of passers-by. Soon, people were coming not just for a meal, but for an evening of entertainment. Louise had worked hard to set up a small, cozy stage using fruit crates, adorned with colorful fruits that added a charming touch to the makeshift setting. It wasn't extravagant, but it was inviting, with an atmosphere that promised warmth and authenticity. Victoria, nervous but determined, took her place on the stage, while Louise, now dressed in the work clothes Victoria had provided, took charge of the kitchen and service with surprising ease. He had a natural talent for cooking and hospitality, and his enthusiasm was evident as he prepared and served dishes with care. As the evening unfolded, the restaurant buzzed with activity. Victoria's performance, paired with the fun challenge of guessing song names, created an ambience that was both lively and intimate. Customers responded enthusiastically, enjoying the music and the opportunity to engage in something different from the usual dining experience. Victoria's voice, once hesitant, grew stronger with each song, fueled by the positive reactions from the crowd. Louise, catching glimpses of her between serving dishes and cooking, couldn't help but feel proud. She was not only holding her own, but she was shining in a way that made the restaurant come alive. The night was a success. The restaurant, which had been struggling to attract customers, was now bustling with people who had come for more than just food. They had come for an experience, and that's exactly what they got. As the last guests left and the restaurant quieted down, Victoria and Louise found themselves alone in the dining area, the day's events still fresh in their minds. The success of the night had left them both elated and exhausted. "Louise, I can't believe it worked," Victoria said, her voice a mix of disbelief and happiness. "We did it." "You did it," Victoria. Louise corrected her, his eyes filled with admiration. "Your music, your presence, that's what made tonight special. I knew you could do it." They stood there for a moment, basking in the glow of their shared achievement. The restaurant had been saved, at least for now, and in the process, something more had begun to blossom between them. The night had been about more than just business. It had been about discovering new strengths, building trust, and perhaps the beginning of something deeper. Little Sophia was a whirlwind of energy and dedication, helping her father with a seriousness that charmed everyone who watched. She moved through the kitchen with the grace that only children possess, passing ingredients, collecting dishes, and fetching glasses with an eager determination. As the afternoon wore on, the restaurant grew busier, filled with customers drawn in by the allure of live music and the excitement of the challenge. Victoria, standing on her small stage, captivated everyone with her sweet and enchanting voice. Each melody she sang seemed to weave a spell over the room, transforming the atmosphere into something magical. The applause after every song grew louder, and the customers eagerly participated in the game, trying to guess the song titles for a chance to win their promised desserts. Amidst the bustle of a full restaurant, Louis found himself stealing glances at Victoria whenever he could. Every time he passed by the stage, he allowed himself a brief moment to admire her, his heart swelling with a joy he hadn't felt in a long time. Their eyes met frequently, and every time they shared a smile, it was like a secret exchange that only they understood. Even the demands of the busy restaurant couldn't erase the smile from Louis's face, a smile that reflected the deep admiration and affection he was beginning to feel for Victoria. Returning to the kitchen after one such moment, Louis was met by Sophia's keen observation. "Dad, you've got that silly smile again," she teased, a mischievous twinkle in her eyes. "I haven't given up on having a mom yet." Louis, caught off guard by his daughter's comment, quickly redirected the conversation to their work. "Let's focus on the dishes now, okay? We've got a lot to do. And be careful with the glasses, use the chair to reach them." He tried to keep his tone neutral, but his heart felt light, almost buoyant. It was clear that this day wasn't just about securing the restaurant's future for Louise. It was about something much more personal and profound. In the days that followed, Armando's restaurant experienced an incredible resurgence. Word spread quickly about the unique experience it offered, and with each passing day, more and more customers flocked to the small eatery, drawn not only by the delicious food but by the vibrant atmosphere and live music. The restaurant had become a local sensation, a place where people came to enjoy not just a meal but a memorable experience. When Armando returned from his trip, he was met with a sight he could hardly believe. The restaurant's entrance was packed with people, a scene he hadn't witnessed in what felt like ages. The sound of Victoria's voice singing for an enraptured audience drifted through the air, blending with the cheerful chatter of customers. The for sale sign, which had once hung like a symbol of defeat, was nowhere to be seen. As he stepped inside, Armando was astonished to see Luis moving through the bustling restaurant with the grace and confidence of a seasoned waiter. Dressed impeccably and radiating happiness, Luis was clearly in his element, managing the restaurant with ease. Luis greeted Armando with a warm, genuine smile. "Welcome back, Armando. How was your trip? I hope it wasn't too exhausting," he said, his words modest, belying the monumental effort that had gone into the restaurant's transformation. Armando, overwhelmed by what he was seeing, let out a shaky laugh, his eyes welling up with tears of joy. It was a scene he had never imagined in his darkest hours. "You've done something incredible here, Luis. It's a miracle. I owe you my life." But Armando, never one to dwell on emotions for too long, quickly regained his composure. "But enough talking and crying, we've got work to do. Let's get to it," he declared with renewed vigor, rolling up his sleeves and diving back into the restaurant's operations. The collaboration between him and Luis flowed seamlessly, as if they had been working together for years, their teamwork a testament to the bond that had formed between them. This moment marked more than just the revival of a struggling restaurant. It signified the birth of a new family. They were not bound by blood, but by shared dreams, hard work, and the music that had brought them all together. Armando's restaurant had transformed into a lively, joyful meeting place, a living testament to the power of hope, creativity, and perseverance. It was proof that even in the darkest of times, light could be found, and from that light, something beautiful and enduring could grow. At the end of the busy day, when the restaurant finally found its well-deserved rest, Armando invited Luis for a private conversation in the storage room. Meanwhile, Victoria and Sofia shared a quiet moment in the kitchen, savoring the last bits of a leftover dessert, their laughter filling the air with warmth and contentment. In the dimly lit storage room, Armando wasted no time expressing his deep gratitude. "Luis, I can't thank you enough for everything you've done. You have no idea how much this means to me and my daughter. You both have put on quite the show tonight." Luis, ever humble, nodded in appreciation. "It was a team effort, Mr. Armando. With a little creativity and everyone's help, especially Victoria's, we managed to turn things around. I couldn't have done it without her." Armando's smile widened at Luis's recognition of Victoria's crucial role in their success. "Say what you want, but you can't deny your skill tonight. You served the customers as if you'd been doing it for years, and they all left satisfied. You've proven yourself to be not just a great waiter and cook, but a true asset to this place." Then Armando's tone shifted, his expression becoming more serious. He looked Luis in the eye, his voice dropping to a more direct, almost paternal tone. "But let me tell you something. Luis, I hope you'll be just as good a son-in-law as you are a worker. Or did you think I hadn't noticed those smiles between you and Victoria?" The words struck Luis like a bolt of lightning, catching him completely off guard. His face turned an intense shade of red. The idea that his feelings for Victoria were so evident that even Armando noticed them left him both flustered and deeply happy. Well, I don't know what to say," Luis stammered, a nervous laugh escaping his lips as he tried to process Armando's unexpected blessing. But Armando wasn't finished. "Luis, you're a good man. I've seen the way you look at Victoria, and I know you care for her. That's all I could ever want for my daughter. So don't be afraid to take that next step." The conversation lingered in Luis's mind, and it wasn't long before Armando's sharp observation turned into reality. A few weeks after Armando's return, Luis, filled with newfound confidence and love, proposed to Victoria. The affirmative response was no surprise to anyone, least of all to Sofia, who had been eagerly anticipating this moment. 2 months later, the small, intimate wedding took place, filled with the same warmth and love that had brought them all together. During this time, Luis officially became part of the restaurant team, working alongside Victoria to not only sustain the business, but also to pursue bigger dreams together. Their partnership, rooted in mutual respect and shared passions, became the foundation of their success. With hard work and determination, they accumulated enough resources to buy a house, creating a true home where love and laughter flourished. Sofia, who had become a joyful, constant presence both in the restaurant and in the lives of Luis and Victoria, was overjoyed when she learned she would soon have a sibling. The news brought a new layer of meaning to their story, symbolizing the beginning of a new chapter in their lives, a chapter filled with promise, love, and the bright hope of the future. As the years passed, the restaurant not only remained a beloved gathering place in the community, but also expanded, becoming a successful franchise throughout the city. Luis's innovative vision, coupled with Armando's tireless dedication and Victoria's unwavering support, transformed the restaurant into a symbol of resilience, creativity, and success. The stability and prosperity the family achieved were a testament to the power of collaboration, love, and belief in one's dreams. The restaurant became more than just a place to eat. It became a living monument to the strength of family, the joy of shared passions, and the triumph of hope over adversity. And in the heart of it all was the bond that had grown between Luis, Victoria, Armando, and Sofia, a bond that promised to endure for generations, carrying forward the legacy of love, unity, and the belief that together they could overcome anything. The days of struggle and uncertainty gradually transformed into a future filled with prosperity and joy. Each new challenge was no longer viewed as a daunting obstacle, but rather as an opportunity to grow, to learn, and to strengthen their bond even further. The legacy they built together, woven with the melodies of Victoria's music, the unforgettable flavors of Luis's dishes, and the deep love that bound them, became a beacon of inspiration for everyone who crossed their path. Their story served as a powerful reminder that with unity, perseverance, and love, even the most ambitious dreams can be turned into reality. The restaurant, once on the brink of closure, stood as a testament to their journey, a place where community, creativity, and compassion flourished. And in every dish served, every song sung, and every smile exchanged, their legacy continued to grow, touching lives and spreading hope. For those who visited their restaurant, it wasn't just a place to eat, it was a place where they could feel the warmth of family, the resilience of the human spirit, and the beauty of dreams realized through hard work and love. And as the years went by, their story was passed down, a timeless tale of how together, with hearts united, anything is possible. And so, the journey of Luis, Victoria, Armando, and Sofia comes full circle, reminding us all of the incredible power of love, unity, and perseverance. Their story shows us that with a shared vision and unwavering support, even the toughest challenges can become stepping stones to a brighter future. What about you? What have you learned from this inspiring journey? We'd love to hear from you. Comment below with one lesson you've taken to heart and plan to bring into your own life. If you enjoyed this video, please leave your comment below, and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to our YouTube channel for more heartwarming stories and life lessons. Thank you for watching.